I'll tell you what, man, that synth really plays towards the strengths of the cyberpunk story that you've got to
Yes.
talk about here on this episode of Longbox Punk. It's a brand new one. It is a Monday evening, which means like how better can you spend your time from commiserating about a Monday at work than by hanging out and talking about indie comics? And that's exactly what we're going to do right here on the Longbox Punk. That's me. I'm Chris. I am the Longbox Punk, and I am joined today by the ever impressive, my fellow fan of purple, Adam Matthew Smith. My dude, thanks for hanging out with me, making time on a Monday to talk comics.
Absolutely, and I do love purple, and thank you for having me.
For sure. Yeah, when you first sent me Hyperforce issue 1, I was like, man, just based on this color palette, like I already love this book. And then I read it and I was like, yeah, no, I'm fully hooked. He's got me. Like, this is right in my wheelhouse. We're going to talk the current campaign that you've got for Hyperforce issues 1 and 2. We're going to talk about some music that you may or may not have hidden deep in the depths of your online presence. But before we get into all of that stuff, what's a podcast about comics without an origin story? So, like, how did you get into comics? How did you start making comics? Where did all this come from?
Okay. Well, I loved comics as a kid. I read lots of different titles, and that's around the time I started creating these characters. I was drawing, and my idea was really that I wanted to become a comic artist, and actually draw all the stuff for Marvel or DC or whoever. So that was really my focus. So that's really back when I created these characters that are in the Shadows graphic novel and the Hyperforce series. And they've developed over the course of time, of course. But yeah, they were really actually. I looked back just the other day and I saw I created Kitsune and the Forest King the year Deadpool was created.
That's awesome.
It's so weird, like it's weird to think about. But yeah, they spent so much time, just hidden in the closet under, layers of dust. And I finally came back around to them. I had abandoned them for music, like you had mentioned. And I came back around to them, and it's been a lot of fun, honestly, like just kind of reimagining these things. It was, it's always kind of cool, like going back through things you've maybe done in the past, and you're kind of like seeing it through this new perspective, these new eyes,
Yeah.
just kind of like molding it like clay. So
Yeah, that's cool. And I love in the first issue at the end, you've got like the character designs, but then you've also got the original
mhm.
drawings that you did in the 90s of these
Yeah.
characters. Like seeing that for me was very much like, oh man, he's been living with these characters for 30 years. Like, that's awesome. So it's got to be great to then see them on the page now in like the complete like evolution of what they've turned into,
Yes.
which is just like super freaking sick. So Hyperforce is a series that happens after the Shadows graphic novel. Yeah.
Yeah, it takes place about a year after the end of Shadows.
Okay.
So it kind of it picks up from where those characters are at. Shadows is really this other story about this other character, but it's kind of ends in the like the culmination of them coming together as Hyperforce. So they
Cool.
kind of announce it at the end that they're building this team. Um, so that's kind of like what it leads into. And then Hyperforce, I tried to craft it to where you can pick up on it without having red shadows, and you can still kind of jump in. You're in the middle of the action right away, but you can,
Yeah.
kind of get where you are more or less. So
Yeah, and admittedly, as someone that hadn't read Shadows, I had no issue following along with Hyperforce One.
great.
So it was definitely like, oh, this is an existing world that I've just stepped into. Like, where else can I read this stuff? Like, I want to read all of the things. So I just haven't gotten around to getting back to order my copy of Shadows from you yet. But yeah, I think it's great that you like, what made you want to break this into its own thing instead of just making it like the second arc of Shadows?
That's a good question. So it's honestly just kind of me playing with format.
Hmm.
So a lot of people told me I was crazy as I was doing Shadows, it being really my first, installment into this, comic and graphic novel world as a writer, not a reader.
Yeah.
Um, so it was a huge project. It took a while, it took years. And it was a lot of fun, and I really just with the shadows, I had the idea that I wanted to tell this whole story just in case, because it was my first, try at this, that
Yeah,
just in case that didn't work out, at least I could have a whole story that people can read from beginning to end and it makes sense. They're not waiting for something a year later. So I want to have that something done. So it was very ambitious, I understand, and people were telling me every step of the way, like, dude, this is crazy. But like, I'm like, I want to do this. Like, I just want to.
yeah,
Um, and I could have broken it into, an arc, and it probably would have broken into like 6 or 7 issues, depending on, where the chapters would end. But that's the format I had in my mind since the beginning. I was like, this is going to be this thick story. And with Hyperforce, I feel like it's something I learned from doing Shadows, as I had talked to different publishers over time and talked to different comic shops, and it seems more or less, although a lot of people are gravitating more toward trades, um, comic shops and labels were saying that issues are more interesting to them because it's something people can come back for. It's something a new reader is more willing to invest in, not having heard this name or this title. Um, that they would be more willing to invest, a few bucks, $5, $10 into a single issue than like 20, $25 into a trade.
sure.
So it made sense. So I'm like, let me just try. Let me just see how this goes, and I'll do an issue based thing just to kind of play with it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you're like still learning as you're creating the things and being intentional with those learnings instead of just like, yeah, no, I like this. So like this is just what I'm gonna keep doing. Like, no, let's try the single issue release and see how that goes. So like how is it going? How's this process compare? How does working with the rest of the team that you've got for Hyperforce, like how is that compared to doing the entire like graphic novel of Shadows?
Well, I feel like Shadows is probably a pretty it's a special situation because the person who did the inking, the coloring, and the lettering for Shadows was one person.
Okay.
So it being 140 pages and JC Grande doing all of that stuff by himself, it was a behemoth.
Yeah.
So it took a lot of time. So that process was a bit grueling, and did take a bit of time. And I don't know, this was something that we had arranged in the beginning. I don't know if he knew what he was getting into, and he wanted to do it. He still wanted to do it by the end, but I think I kind of wore him out, unfortunately. I
Mm,
felt bad for him, but he's doing something awesome right now of his own called Tankard. It's very cool looking. It's about to come out, his own character. Um, but yeah, JC's awesome. But so that was its own thing because now I have like more like one person doing each thing, which is less grueling on one person, and
yeah.
more also it helps the production a little faster. um can do more assembly line type things.
Yep.
What I can say is I do like that I was able to tell a whole story with a graphic novel, so I do still cling to that. I think that's awesome. This is cool because it's more like, not, I wouldn't say instant gratification, but it's like you can get it more frequently because, you can
Yeah.
put something shorter out a little faster. So I can do something annually, or maybe 2 times a year if I'm lucky.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
So with the like with Hyperforce, are you writing it issue by issue and then like keeping that assembly line thing going?
so I've actually written the framework. So originally I had Hyperforce as a 10 issue arc. And I've kind of ripped some parts out, and now it's about 5 issues.
Okay.
They're gonna come in future arcs, but I had like a really meaty like 10 issue arc. So I'm just gonna like tell this bigger story I was telling, I'm gonna tell it in a shorter arc, and I'll move to other arcs just so I can kind of finish something a little faster sooner.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. I think there's something for sure to be said about like having that complete story instead of like leaving readers hanging. And then with indie comics, you never know how anything's ever going to go. So, like being able to have a complete story and knowing that you've got a solid 5 issues planned Like I think as a reader for the series, that should be enticing to be like, oh cool, like there's a like they know when the end of this arc is going to happen, instead of like, yeah, it's an ongoing of like who knows how many. Like that's hard, that's harder, I think, of like a barrier, which isn't the right word, but like that's more difficult to be like, yeah, I'm going to back this single issue of that story that may or may not ever see the ending of the story arc that they started in the issue that I just backed. So like
Right.
knowing that you've got the 5 issues, like, and especially in the Kickstarter realm or like crowdfunding in general, I can definitely see like the benefits and the drawbacks of doing a full graphic novel at once or doing the single issues. Like that's a lot to think about, and that I don't think I've ever spent any brain matter on before. So thanks for giving me more things to consider.
Well, the thing too is actually kind of to what you're saying is, um, I was listening to a podcast. I forget which one it was, but there was some podcast I was listening to, and someone mentioned, when you get with crowdfunding, as far as that's concerned, when I get to issue 10, like right now I'm doing Hyperforce issue 2, so
Mhm.
I'm crowdfunding for the to reprint the first issue and issue 2. When I get to issue 10, that's a big ask. That's going to be, I'm printing 1 through 10 now kind of thing. So
Yeah.
so breaking it down to 5 will help both potential pledgers, the audience, and myself. you know
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it does. That kind of makes sense to me because I really was kind of being stubborn about like taking it down. I was trying to like figure out how to make it a smaller arc, or a smaller series, and that's one of the things that swayed me when I heard that. I'm like, okay, Kickstarter, it's going to be harder when it gets to 5. Even 5, it's going to be a little harder, because you're
Yeah.
funding 5 issues now. So
Yep. Yeah, and I've definitely seen campaigns that are out there where it's like issue 13 of an ongoing series, and it's like that's a lot to catch up on. And
I can do it on the writing side. I can do it. It's more on the funding side I'm worried
yeah,
about. So I guess kind of back to your question, like I actually have written out the skeleton and a little bit more of like 20 issues essentially.
okay,
So I have all of these arcs that kind of like one picks up where the other one leaves off. And I have this whole like I'm very organized where I have this like Excel sheet where it says what each character is doing in each issue. So I have accounts because I have a big team. I have,
yeah,
depending on the issue, 6, 7, 8 people on the team. So I have to figure out I kinda gotta keep everything in order. I don't trust myself. So I'm like, I'm gonna put this in an Excel sheet. And so I have like for each issue and then the character, and I have like what each character is doing for each issue, and I have like anyway, links to other explanations and other Word docs.
yeah. I The nerdy part of me is like incredibly happy right now hearing that, because I'm like, yeah, let's make all the lists. Let's give every character a list and every breakdown of everything that they're doing. Like, I could get way deep into those weeds as like create if I'm trying to create a team thing, which I think is why all of the ideas that I've had that I'm like, yeah, I could probably turn that into a thing is like 2 people.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah.
it simple. I don't even know how you manage to keep all of, I mean, now with the Excel stuff, I get it, but not knowing that, it's just like, dang, that's a lot to keep up with. Like, how,
Yeah.
when you were creating these characters, did you like, how do I want to say that? As you created characters, were there like, okay, I just created like 15 characters, but logistically, like, I probably should only have 5 or 6, or were you always just like, these are the characters, this is their story?
Yeah. I was just kind of like these are the characters. This is who I want to play with. It's
Nice.
like I'm just like a kid playing in a sandbox with his toys, and I'm like, I want to play with these toys right now.
Yeah.
Let's gonna
Let's
pull
have
these
fun with
guys out.
these. There's other
Yeah,
ones probably, but like these are yeah. No, I definitely wore out more of my like Wolverine and Beast action figures than I ever did my like Storm and Gambit action figures. So
well, I have more characters I do want to play with, and there will be people you meet as you go through the Hyperforce series for sure. There will be at least one new character in each issue. Not necessarily a team member, but somebody else in the, canon or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's just I take like the whole world building thing as a challenge. It's fun. It's just fun for me, and I do enjoy a good creative challenge. And it's fun for me, honestly, to do the Excel sheets, and I color code things and keep it. I get real nerdy with it. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's I like it. It's fun.
That's great. We also have some folks that are watching that are also fans of the lists, and like that just confirms for me, like I found my people because I have everything on a list.
Lists, yes, list
So
nation.
if you were to, we should make that a like hashtag list nation and just like share your nerdiest list that you've got.
Yes,
Um,
I have lists.
I've got so many. Like I have docs in multiple Gmail accounts because I have too many lists.
Oh,
And
wow.
so I've had to like spread stuff out and it's dumb. Really. I should have a list to control all my lists, but I'm not
Yeah,
that far yet. I'm not like inception list making. Is that what that would be? So I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself because like for those that might not know, like what is Hyperforce? What's the book about? Like
fair.
what's going on in this world that's full of awesome characters and very neon cyberpunk feel?
Sure. So there's a quote behind me, and it says, "In a time where people couldn't be more divided, they're coming together over their hate and fear for hypersapiens." So that's kind of like the theme is these people have enhanced DNA. They don't all have super powers, but some of them have extra abilities. They're just an advanced Homo sapien, so they're hypersapiens. I'm calling them. But they'd be like a metahuman or a mutant or those kinds of things. So this is in a cyberpunk neon lit backdrop, a post superhero future. So in this world, superheroes did exist at one point in the past where they were, wore the all the spandex and stuff and were idolized, but that time has passed. They've been prosecuted. Many have been killed off, and detained, used as slaves. So these people are a group of rebel hypersapiens who are rising up against this oppressive government in like a undefined but not too distant future.
Awesome. And what can people expect from the second issue, which is the new one? Because they can get the first issue or before I mean, they can get it part of the campaign as a catch up, but you're also selling like issue one through Apollo City Comics, right?
I am, yeah, on the Apollo City Comics website. You can get a lot of different cool titles, but yeah, also Hyperforce issue one and soon to be issue two. And on that site, also, I have another one off in the storyline of the Hyper Sapiens, the Nocturnal Rabbit guy. I have it right here. But
Nice.
this is a little 8-year-old kid who's just very interested in. He's a Hyper Sapien, but he hasn't really come into his powers fully yet, and he's still getting to know what they are. So he's named himself Nocturnal Rabbit Guy because he likes rabbits and he's cute little kid.
Yeah.
So it's actually more about him getting bullied in school and how he
Ooh,
deals with that and kind of his side life. But he sees them as a tie. He sees Hyperforce, the team, kind of wrecking some facilities of this government.
that's awesome.
Yeah, so he sees that on the news while he's doing that. But it'll tie in later if I get far enough with it. So
That's cool. So, like, what's being in like a dystopian? There used to be superheroes, like that feels like it's got a lot of potential of like different power structures, different like political landscapes that you could be playing with. Like, is that something that you intentionally wanted to come at from like a I don't know, like a unique angle?
yes, I mean it certainly does echo some real things happening, of course, and especially in Shadows, because Shadows is something where they're actually fighting a vice president turned monster,
Mm,
literal monster. Like he becomes like this crazy big, you know, not human looking dude.
yeah.
But that actually ends in the president's. taking his own life, basically, from the guilt of what he's let happen. He wasn't necessarily the villain in that, but he was kind of like complacent.
Mm,
So that it ends that way. So at the beginning of Hyperforce, we actually are witnessing a new political structure where there, instead of a Supreme Court, it's called the Paragon, and it's this panel of silhouetted CEOs who actually are making all the decisions along the president's side, um, at this point, who is a new president.
that's
So
cool.
yeah, it's this new, and yeah, so it's all being run by these corporations, and but they're all silhouetted. You don't know who they are, so it makes it extra mysterious and creepy. But fits
Yeah.
into that dystopian feel.
Sure does. Yeah, the giant faces on the screen, almost like V for Vendetta with the
Yeah,
finger
yeah,
man. Yeah, like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
definitely giving those vibes. So, like, speaking of V for Vendetta, like, were you influenced by some of the like politically leaning comics like growing up, or was this more just like a something else entirely?
Um, I mean, partially for sure. I mean, specifically, I mean, Alan Moore has always been a huge influence on me. So that's definitely in the mix.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, it's I'm trying to kind of play on tropes, play on things that we've seen, but come at it from a different angle, kind of a fresh angle, and something that's, I think, not that hasn't been done, but something I'm kind of trying to twist on in this is kind of to spotlight ethics and everything, and
mm,
kind of like help the reader, or pose a question to the reader where they stand in all of this, because I'm trying to be very unbiased when I'm writing these characters, to where I'm not like saying they're awesome, I'm not saying they're bad. It's just kind of happening,
yeah,
and you have to decide, are they like total villains? Are they anti-heroes? Are they hero? Like, are they, where do they stand in this? Because it is a gray area. I mean, it is a very, it's not black and white at all. So,
yeah.
um, and as the issues go on, you're going to have to keep looking at this from a different light. So that's something I'm kind of focusing on.
That's cool. That's a really clever way to like be thought provoking with the story of leaving it more ambiguous without saying like, oh, they did this thing and they're bad. Like leaving it up to the reader to figure out, ooh, you know what? Like I totally get why he just killed that guy or whatever. Of because then like all of the introspection and I think that's great. Like I love the intentionality. I can't even imagine how you can write it in a way.
It's I like I said, I have to be. I mean, I can't be like 100% unbiased, but I try to be as unbiased as possible. Like you said before, like I've had these characters in my head for, years and years,
Yeah.
decades. So like over the course of time, I would always think like, oh, Fume would say this thing if I hear someone say that in person, in real life, and just kind of like file it away, and like, so I have like their personalities kind of down locked. I just have to be very like, you know, unbiased, just
Yeah.
completely unbiased, or else it's going to change the story,
Yeah.
But it's fun though. It's that, but I also have to, and I've said this to someone before, and they're like, "Wow, that's kind of wild," but I don't care whether they die or not. None of them.
Mm,
So I'm willing to kill any of them off. Which, I'm not trying to save them. They don't have plot armor necessarily, as people have been bringing up more so lately.
yeah.
So I think that makes it interesting. Maybe the stakes are a little higher with that mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, because then suddenly, like, it with all of them on the table, it literally opens the door for like anything to happen and take them off the table. So that definitely, like, yeah, that's fascinating because you're right. Like most writers that have had, especially with characters that they've been working on or thinking about for a long time, have grown that like intimacy almost of like, no, this is my character. Like, I could never kill this character.
Right.
Whereas you're like, nah, no, they're done.
But not to be confused with being like, I would still like, I love them. Like, I love them so much. Like, it would break my heart, but it's like, no,
Yeah.
this needs to happen for the story. Like, I want it, because that's all I've always been about, the story.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, characters, sometimes you love them, maybe they need to die to make that impact on other characters or change the course of things, you know?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, look at, stuff like The Lion King, right? Like if Mufasa hadn't died, Simba wouldn't have been forced into like figuring out what it means to be king and all of
yeah,
the struggles that like it has to happen for the sake of the
he
story.
would have
So
been an entitled shithead, you know, like he would.
right. Yeah, he would have just been
So,
pushing his way around Pride Rock and
exactly. What a jerky prince. Yeah, he had, he had to. Mufasa had to die, you know.
had to. He had to. There was no other option.
Yeah.
Scar was right, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh man.
Too bold. I think I can say that. You also, so aside from Hyperforce, you're also doing all sorts of other stuff creatively. So you've also got, I saw that you've got a story called The Grand Hunt coming in an anthology.
The Grand
The
Haunt.
Grand Hunt, that's what it
Haunt.
is. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
how did that come to be? Like, how did you get a part of that anthology?
Um, I am in the Florida community of comic creators with George, who's behind Phantasmagoria.
Yep. Okay.
And so, we have a ton of mutuals, and I'm in Central Florida. He's in South Florida. So we have a lot of like mutual friends and people we know, but we haven't actually, I've never met George, but, we've, spoken a lot over, Instagram and stuff. So,
Sure.
yeah, I reached out to him because we had spoken about it previously in actually Phantasmagoria 1, but I wasn't ready or available, I guess, at that point to contribute. So we kind of circled back around to it, and I was like, "Hey, I think I got something." So I had this story. It's I don't want to say much because it's a short story, but yeah, it's called the Grand Haunt. Phantasmagoria 2 should be crowdfunding this summer, I believe. So
That's cool.
that's
Yeah,
coming
and
out.
I'm familiar with Phantasmagoria. Like when I saw that, I was like, wait a second, I did a review for the first volume of Phantasmagoria right here on the Long Box Punk. And
Nice.
so I was like, well, that's freaking cool. Like just the overlapping circles all the time, especially all you Florida folks, man. Like the more Florida people that I talk to, the more they're like, yeah, I'm like, well, we're doing this thing. And like, yeah, we have a Florida creative, whatever. Like, I want a freaking Ohio creative thing that I can be a part of. So
Now
that's, I mean,
it's
that's super rad.
Yeah, I mean, social media has been great at connecting with different communities. And the thing is, like, the more I'm in this, it's been a few years now, the more I've been in this community, I'm realizing how small it is, like
Yeah.
even with the big guy, the big two and everything, like it's a very small community. Um, so you kind of have peripherals, like
Yeah.
contacts, and you kind of eventually cross over someone, but I think overall everyone's very supportive of everybody else, and we're all kind of all in the same boat, so we know what the struggle is and try our best to help each other. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a very common theme that I love hearing as often as I do here on the show from other creators of just like this community, man. Like it's so supportive. It's all the things. So like, was it that same community that helped you find the team to assemble to put together the Hyperforce series?
yeah, well, so the I do have a different team on issue 2 that I'm going forward with. There's no drama behind that or anything. It's just
Okay.
more convenient, and they're in the States. So
Mm,
Alejo Vigliani, who was the artist in issue 1, and it's an amazing, like this super grand aesthetic thing. So he's down in Argentina, and I actually met him through the person who did the cover for Shadows.
okay.
Yeah, Nachisimo is what his artist name he goes by. So check that out on Instagram or whatever social media. Um, and so Nachisimo did the cover for Shadows, and then I was talking about doing a Hyperforce series, that wanted more of a cyberpunk feel, and he's like, "Oh, my friend Alejo is really into cyberpunk and does this." So, but Alejo's got a lot of projects going on, and he's an awesome. I hope to work with him again soon, but he's a very busy artist down there. But
Yeah.
it's awesome to have Jay Red and Bob Little working with me on this. Both awesome artists from the lesser known comics and the Apollo City Comics crew. So again, the community is just really cool, and those were two awesome people I met through doing all this and meeting all these people online. So
That's awesome.
very fortunate to have run into all these people and crossed paths with all these people. So
Yeah. And like it's funny the connections just from like lesser known comics and Apollo City that I feel like there's some virtual water cooler that all of you creators hang out at. And like one person mentioned, yeah, I did this like long box punk thing because I think you're now the seventh person that's tied somehow to one or the other that I've had on the show. So like Jay was on the show, Brandon Blocksdorf was on the show, Brandon DeBillis was
oh
on the show.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
several Mike
Wow.
Sears has been on, so like I know I'm forgetting people because it just keeps coming up like, hey, I work with Brandon with Apollo City. I'm like, dope. Hey, Brandon from lesser known, and I'm like, yeah, just come on. Just keep coming. So
That's funny. Yeah, I did catch your Blocksdorf interview. That was a good interview. Very good.
yeah, that was one of those ones where like he and I kept missing each other scheduling wise. And finally I was like, dude, listen, like I have this date. Tell me this date works for you. And he was like, actually, it does. I was like, seriously, the first time like you were trying in
He's a
2025?
busy dude. He is juggling. He's
He's
got
got
a lot going on.
so much going on. It's
That's awesome.
ridiculous. But I saw, speaking of Brandon, I saw Jay on Spilled Ink doing the one of the pinups, right? It was the
Yeah,
pinup
Droid.
available
Yeah, he was doing a
trophy.
picture. Yeah.
That's super rad. Like it was cool. I just love watching artists create like badass comic imagery.
Yeah,
And
Spilled
so
Ink is a cool show.
I love that show because you get to see like through the show, just if people, anybody checking this out doesn't know, it literally is like Brandon, who was like, I want to learn how to draw and I want to do it and commit to it every week. And I know artists that are friends of mine or that I've worked with. So I'm going to have them on and we're just going to draw together and talk shop. And so that's what they do every Thursday. And like Jay was on, and I feel like that was one that he had like three people on, but Max Flowers, who was just on the last like 2 weeks, was there. And so it just is like, it's super cool to see all these people just drawing and just talking shop. And I pop in from time to time when I can, but yeah, seeing that Jay was on doing Hyperforce, I was like, wait a second, Jay's doing Hyperforce? Like that was how it clicked for me. And I was like, oh
Right.
man, I know
What?
we're in for a
Yeah.
good time now. Like he gets just like freaking awesome action and with the incision books. And so I'm stoked to see what he does
Well,
on this
Jay and
next
I,
issue.
yeah, we when we first started talking, we're like, yeah, we have such similar like worlds that we're building. We're like, we have to have a crossover at some point or something. So that was like our initial conversation, like about the crossover. But yeah, I'm so happy to have him on because he's the perfect fit.
Yeah. Yeah, super good stuff. But okay, so you also, outside of that, you into Romania?
I did.
What? Like I saw that and I was like, what is book art est? And it was
Goddess.
in free, and I was just like, okay, I'm asking you, like, how,
Yeah,
what?
it's a play on Bucharest because Bucharest, Romania. So Bucharest, Est,
Okay.
Romania.
All
Uh,
right. See?
so that Bucharest is a little different because that is a so my wife is Romanian.
Okay.
So I have been looking for like different places to like kind of push my book to different markets, and she helps me. She's almost kind of like a manager. Like she's like I'm more on the artist side, so she kind of like, hey, over here, right? I'm
Logistics
like, what,
matter.
what? Oh yeah, yeah. We're in the real world, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, what? I'm in the, I'm like always like, so she's like, come here. So she's basically like helping me find different places, and she just happened to see this because there was a newsletter for this art thing that she's following, and there was a submission possibility. So I submitted some pages from the first. Uh, Actually, I can show you. I have it right here from the first issue of Hyperforce, and it's this not a 2-page spread, but it's these 2 pages
Yeah.
about this concert. So really what it is I was showing like the process, from the sketch to the final product, how it goes between the artist and the writer.
Okay.
So that's really what it was highlighting. but this is really about identity, like accepting your identity when this singer is the pop star is singing here, and she actually becomes one of the Hyperforce members. So
Yeah, and, selfishly, I love that scene anyway, because I was like, "Ooh, a concert in this, like, cyberpunk world, this is gonna be sick!" And
yeah,
then
there's oh sorry.
following her story in, it was just like, "Yeah, no, this is sick."
Yeah, she's gonna be quite the character down the line here. But yeah, there's a lot of things that I really just want to include in this story. Like, they're definitely going to be in like a nightclub at one point. I have it written out. There's like these different like destinations, almost like I've scouted, scene, for like a film or something. Like,
Yeah,
so yeah, there's going to be these staple places. A monorail fight, all sorts of stuff. So.
perfect. I love it. So when you have those ideas, do you start with, like, "I gotta have a scene in a nightclub," and then figure out like how you work the nightclub into the narrative, or does that like come in of like I need to have it needs to be somewhere public, but like how do those places fit into the creation of the story as a whole?
I think that it happens both of the ways you just said. Like sometimes I find a good place for it, and sometimes it just kind of writes itself. Just like part of like the story or the environment they're in.
Hmm.
But sometimes it is where I'm just like, you know what, I want this there, and I'm going to put it there. Like, and I'll find exactly where I can place this. So, like in the first issue, there is I've created all of these titles for different places because I want to make it more of like a real world. And there's an element of this that I want it to be a little bit like a Seinfeld type thing, where they're just kind of like talking. They're just kind of like it's not the action. It's like them like I have a coffee shop that they're gonna be frequenting throughout everything.
Perfect.
And it's called Sip the Bean. So
It
I'm gonna
works.
have little names for all these things, but Sip the Bean is their, neighborhood coffee shop they like to go to and talk shit. And so yeah, so that's in the first one. And I don't know, I probably I shouldn't reveal too much, but anyway.
We can pivot. So
Yeah.
aside from going to Budapest,
Yeah. Oh, right.
you also had, and I wrote this down because I knew I was gonna. You had art in the climate correction exhibition. How did that come about? And like, what is that all about? Like, you're doing all of these things that, as I'm looking and perusing all of your social media, I was like, how is he doing all of these things so much? Like, how? How?
I've been very tired.
Perfect.
I am constantly, you see, it's 7:40 p.m. and I'm drinking coffee. So this is where I
Mhm.
am right now. But yeah, that's just another one of those situations where I found an opportunity. Actually the art that I submitted to that was through um what I'm sorry, was created originally for the Speechless and Sleepless Dreams album back in 2011. And I've had it. It was for my birthday like years ago when I was in my 20s. Because I'm old now. My parents got me a nice framing and matting for it as a birthday present. And I'm like, what the fuck? I don't want to put this on my wall. It's my own art kind of thing. Like, and I like was totally against the idea. So it sat in a room in the dark and collected dust forever. And then I finally eventually like took it out, and I think it's kind of cool. It works in one of the rooms in my house. But it was sitting there and I was just kind of like, huh, I saw this thing and I'm like, I don't have anything I can submit to this. And I'm like, wait a minute, I actually do. So I created this whole like narrative around that fits kind of into that like the event that they were doing. But it was really cool because I have one of my characters from Hyperforce is the Forest King,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
this is a way I'm going to kind of go in the future is, or it's going to go into the past, but in my future, focus more on him. And he's much more about like eco uh justice and those kinds of things. So he's kind of like more of like a badass, like rated R Captain Planet.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he's gonna be a hellion, by the way.
I love
So
it.
anyway, so I'm gonna fit a lot into that kind of narrative. So I'm gonna try to do more of those kinds of things for, like, earth change. So I was very happy to be a part of that and able to get the, and I don't know if that answered your question. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you did. Because it leads seamlessly then into, you mentioned that was used for album art. Um, because then that's my very cheesy way of saying, like, you have a bunch of music that I was able to find on your website. And like Speechless in Sleepless Dreams, because that's hard to say,
It
sir.
is.
Why did you have to do that?
I
That album was the one that I listened to in its entirety, and then I went back to the song Fare Thee Well.
mm.
Like, that's the song on that whole CD that I was like, man, this thing is freaking good.
Do you like the breakdown in the middle?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sure do.
That that's by design. I did it in seven. So it's in seven time instead of 3/4. So it kind
Okay.
of it stops at like a weird moment, and it's a hook, It's like it gets you. I love listening back to it. I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
You nailed
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, yes, that song, like, I definitely wrote it down. I drew a little, like, here, I'm not above this. I drew a little thumbs up next to it,
Nice.
like, fare thee well. And it definitely was giving some of the melodic, like, Circus Survives post-punk vibes. And I was like, dude, this would have been my freaking jam had I known about it, because this was coming out the same time that I was in college. And like, that was all I listened to in college, was like post-punk and like all of the like melodic hardcore stuff and like the Coheed and Cambrias, all of those bands. And I was like, man, like certain parts of that CD definitely have that vibe. And then I
Awesome.
was like, I got to find this and put this on a playlist. And so then I spent the majority of the time trying, like, searching Bandcamp and Spotify and like just Googling, like, where the hell is, and it's on your CD. So, or it's on your website.
Well, that's it.
So
That's it. That's it.
like,
Yeah, I took it offline. I scrubbed the internet a while back. I didn't want to be anywhere. I was like, no one's gonna hear my music anymore. But
yep,
no,
here
I
I
have it on my
come.
website now, so it's
It's good stuff. And for
Thank you.
those that might want to also listen, what is your website? I think I have it linked below, but just in
It's
case.
AdamMatthewSmith.com. So no one ever has to call me by my full three names. It's really to differentiate me because there's a lot of Adam Smiths out there.
Shocker.
And so
Yeah.
so at least it's a little easier to find if you throw the middle name in there. But
Yeah.
yeah, because if you typed in back when the graphic novel first came out, Adam Matthew Smith Shadows was how you had to search it. Because if you search Adam Smith Shadows or Adam
Yeah.
Smith Shadows, you'll never find it. You would never find it on Google. So
Yeah. Well,
dumb of me, such a generic title, but anyway.
also, like, how dare you have the name that you have, sir?
Right?
That's the bigger problem.
I should have chosen a
Um,
cool pen name, right? Because I have such a bland.
it
It's
could have
like
been
three
anything.
bland names in a row, but it doesn't make like a cooler super name. It just makes three bland names, right?
I mean, it works, right? Like,
It,
you
it
work with what you
works.
got.
It happens.
You're
I
making
am
it
who I
happen.
am.
That's right. That's right. And good for you. I'm
Yeah.
happy that you are who you are, Adam Matthew Smith. And now that you said you don't have to call you by all three, I'm absolutely calling you by all three names every single time.
Go for it.
Just know that's going to happen, Adam Matthew Smith. So, um,
Okay.
but okay, so aside then from making music, which I wasn't done with that. See,
Okay.
you posted a video of you shredding in front of the art with the Superman when the trailer dropped, and then see, that
I
laugh
did.
tells me I did my work well.
Say what? Say that again.
That laugh tells me that I did the research well, because I found stuff that you didn't expect anybody to ever talk to you about, and here we are.
I debated taking that down after, but
Perfect.
oh gosh.
But then
Anyway,
you also posted a video of you playing a song like the week before your birthday back in January. And so that had me thinking, like, are you still actively writing new music too?
so that song's actually maybe 5 or 6 years old, but I
Yeah.
haven't really. I kind of play like more for myself, like every so often. I'm not really. I don't ever go out on stage anymore. But I have been kind of toying with the idea of putting a set list together, maybe doing, like an EP kind of thing, like an acoustic EP. So yeah, that was one of them that I really didn't never I never released. I wrote and I never released, that I kind of was thinking, I'm going to do more of a singer-songwriter type thing. That's kind of lends to that sound. So,
Yeah.
and that's one of my more favorite songs of that ilk. So,
That's cool. I so similarly, a buddy of mine who was in like several like pop punk bands that even like went to Japan with back in high school, and he was like in Japan playing music.
what
And
was his name?
then his name is Benjamin James Howard. He's another three name person.
Nice.
And he took a lot, like he did a alt rock, like heavy synth band called Pluto Revolts that I loved, and like that's how we met initially. But fast forward to like last December, and he finally took all of these songs that he never recorded with his former bands,
Very
but
cool.
he had written and produced and stuff. And he was like, you know what? I'm gonna put out like an all me acoustic EP. And so he did exactly that and released it. And I've got the button here somewhere. I can't see backwards where it is. I don't know. It's on here somewhere. But like he had an album release show and had a couple of his other like singer-songwriter friends fill in on different instruments for him. And it was a really cool night. So all that to say, like, put the songs together and then release it as an EP and host a record release show and invite your pals and do all the things. So,
I know it's really more, yeah, I guess I just, it's weird because it was so many years of my life that it was like keeping me awake at night thinking of, different lyrics and stuff like that. But it's weird how it comes and goes, because that's not really what my passion, like, I've like changed passions to where I at one point I couldn't ever have imagined stopping playing guitar so much, or playing piano or whatever.
yeah,
But I hardly touch, I'll play piano every so often. I play guitar, a couple every other week kind of thing. And it's not even a sad thing. It's just I'm in a different place. But I have kind of like toyed with the idea, like I said, of just kind of, putting something together. There were like 2 or 3 albums worth of songs that I wrote that we just never got to, of
oh,
different genres, more of the acoustic type, or also like more heavy stuff. So
that's
I
cool.
mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, priorities change, right? Like I get it.
No, but I mean, who knows? I might eventually go back. Who knows? I just never want to be the guy that's like playing covers in an oyster bar. That's like, I never want to be that guy.
I don't think anybody does. Like, I don't know anybody that's like, you know what I'm gonna do with my life? I'm gonna play weekends at the Oyster Bar, and I'm
But I
only
feel like
doing
some people
covers.
are okay with that. Some people are like, yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds cool. It's a steady gig or whatever. But it's like, I don't know. I've always been more of like I don't know, maybe it's pretentious, but I've been like, that's like not artistic enough. It doesn't like scratch my artistic itch. So,
yeah. You're
I don't know.
such a creative.
I'm just somebody who's always been like, if I see something I really like, I'm like, how can I do that myself? How can I create that myself? Because I'd like to do that kind of thing. So,
Yeah. Do it yourself, you say? How
yeah,
punk rock of you, Adam Matthew Smith.
yeah.
So
Why?
you also, speaking of doing it yourself, because making music and comics and writing and having all of these exhibitions that you're doing isn't enough. You also, I saw, make collages. I don't know if all of them are like the one that is on Instagram, but you take text and shapes and make collages out of those two elements combined. Is that your thing, or was that like a one-off thing? How, like,
So
tell me about
it
your art.
so my wife and I have been joining like this collage club in Maitland, or in the Orlando area. Blackbird Comics and Coffee House is like my staple comic shop, because it's not only a great comic shop, it also has like one of the best coffee, in town. So I
One of
like to go
those.
there. What?
One of those, huh?
Oh yeah,
They've got the
it's
coffee,
yeah.
Blackbird.
Yeah, they've got great coffee, and so I, can go to the cafe, bring my laptop, work on some scripts, It's two of my favorite things, comics and coffee, so they got
Yep.
them both. Um, so yeah, there's a collage club that gets together there, and so we'll go to that, and it's actually something that my wife really wanted to do, and I just was like, oh, that sounds fun. I'll go with you, and we did a couple of them, and I did this other one that was not so much like that, but that was the first one I did, or no, the second one I did where it was like words with shapes. But I've gotten a lot of like feedback, not only online, but at the collage club. Like everyone was like, you should do more of this. So I'm actually probably going to keep doing that and see how that kind of pans out.
That's cool.
Yeah, I had fun. It was a lot of fun.
And isn't that the whole point of art, is to
Yes.
have fun making it?
Express yourself and enjoy yourself doing it.
Yep. I love it. And that's why, like, I think art as a hobby is fun. There's certain things that, like, I used to do wood burning, like the
Mm,
pyrography is the
nice.
official word. And I would do it and, like, tailor it for different people's weddings, or just make stupid stuff that I was like, I think it'd be fun to have like every Avenger symbol on little 1 inch
Yeah,
slice of wood. And so I did that. And then now they're sitting in a box in my basement because I'm like, I don't know what to do with them now, but I made them.
that's
But
sad.
my
Put them up on
mother-in-law
the
was,
wall.
see, I do have this like master idea of taking, I have some old barnwood that my dad gave me that I would love to put just like finishing nails, because all the wood I've got for some reason has a hole, like a natural hole in the middle of it.
Mhm.
And so I would love to put in like a little finishing nail, or a brad even, and just tack them all onto this barnwood, and then put that as like the display of like, there they are. But then, that's time, and that's the priority thing, right? Like if we were talking 7 years ago, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's gonna happen. And now I'm like, I am not crafty with my hands. So I'd rather write or read comics or try and make
Yeah,
comics and that sort of thing. But I don't remember anywhere that I was going with this. Uh Help
but
me out here.
it's cool. It's cool to like find your like makes you what you enjoy, what makes you happy, and kind of
Yes.
scratches your creative itch.
Yeah, and not everything has to be to like make money either, because
Right.
then like you're putting on that pressure of having to produce, and sometimes it's just fun to play around. And like
Well,
that's my experience, at least with drawing and stuff, is like
for
I don't
sure.
need to make money on this. I can just be goofy and have fun. Who cares?
Well, that's the thing that I think a lot of people, it discourages a lot of people. They get into this and they think they're going to make money, any sort of money. And I mean, I've personally not that I don't want money, but like I've personally never been in this to like specifically make a buck. I'm just trying to like express and put something out there that might outlive me. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I want to do that. Like I'm more about creating something bigger than me than like making a couple bucks right now. Like, and I know it's not bad to make money, but I think that if you're in it for just the monetary reason, that you're going to burn out and you're not going to last in any sort of creative field. You know,
Yeah.
you have to
Yeah.
have the passion behind it. So,
Yep. Yeah, I never in a million years started this to make money doing this, because like I just wanted to talk to rad creators about comics, and then suddenly found an audience that were like, yeah, we like hearing about that. And I'm like, oh God, okay,
yeah.
yeah, all right.
But see, that's the thing. You found that because it's something that you were passionate about, that you enjoyed, you created, and when you do that, people will come, you'll find your audience. People will show up, but you have to be behind it because they'll know if
Yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
genuine or not. They'll know if you're faking it or not. And, people aren't stupid. I
Yeah.
mean, for the
You
most part.
can't always fake it till you make it either. Like you can in corporate world stuff, but like when it comes to, especially with creative, uh whatever they're called, like especially with creative things like art, like a podcast, like drawing, or writing or whatever, like you can tell, because other creatives put everything they've got into what they're making. And so you can like you can tell art that's flat, or art that has the heart behind it, which is also in, I'm not getting on the soapbox in right now, but like just don't use generative AI, because there's no heart in any of that, right? Like it's all just for the sake of like making, like having a thing that looks a certain way. But like that's not the way to do it, y'all. Like don't support that shit. Like
Yeah,
just
so
don't.
all the TikTok filters and things.
Yeah. Even those, I'm like, why would you add any filter to your
What?
like just be you?
Yeah, what Studio Ghibli person are
Yeah.
you or whatever? She's
Yeah. Yeah. My wife found the like where you can make yourself an action figure.
yeah.
And she was like, babe, this is who I would be if I was an And as soon as she finished, I was like, no, I'm not even looking at your AI slop. Like, I'm not going to do it. She was like, oh, okay. It's like, that's a hard line. I'm not, no.
Yeah. What would you look like as Superman or Elvis or Indiana Jones or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess what? If I want to look like Indiana Jones, I'll put on a
Put
leather
a hat on.
jacket and
Yeah.
I'll carry a whip and I'll have a hat. And if I want to look like Elvis, I'll put on the Elvis sunglasses that I've got. And that just about covers it. You know, I don't need all the who cares? It's
Yeah.
just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of art though, and like creating things with Hyperforce being a cyberpunk setting, like is
Mhm.
that your preferred setting when you're writing stories? Or did that just happen to be the setting for both Shadows and now Hyperforce?
So when I back in the 90s when I was creating these characters, I was also writing like the bits of their, stories, and I did write like mini comics and stuff like that, and I was creating those things. So I have taken that all of that, and that was kind of the environment I had originally created them in, is kind of a futuristic. It wasn't called cyberpunk back then, but it was like the
Sure.
Blade Runner kind of dismal future robot cyborgs and stuff like that. So the actually originally the story was superhuman people versus robots versus demons from hell. I've taken the whole religion aspect of it for the for the most part, and the whole like, all of that, the heaven and hell stuff.
Yeah.
But I do have to say that one of the characters in the story has ties to vampires, so it's not totally that whole thing of the demons and stuff isn't totally gone. But
Yeah. And
anyway,
did that come from just like a I think these things are cool. So like, yeah, I'm gonna write in a Blade Runner environment.
yeah. Yeah, I just always like really liked the idea of like a horrible future.
Perfect. Well, guess what? I have good news for you, Adam Anthony Smith. Just look out your window and
We got here. No. Yeah.
I too like I went through a really big like I read all of the major dystopian book series that were out and like just got super into it and super fascinated, and I still love all of the like you have me at dystopian. If you're like, how do I get Crystal to read a book? If you make it dystopian, I'm in. I that's all I need to know, and I'm in. I'm actually listening to the latest Hunger Games novel right now because it
Nice.
like just came out in my library. Just got a copy because I love my local library. Man, we're just getting all the big thing topics in here this time. Like support your libraries and go and
Yeah.
tell them that they're people too, and your librarians are really nice if you talk to them.
Yeah. I got my library card. It's part of my keychain.
I listen, I've got 3 library cards. I have one for near my mom's house, one for my local town, and one for Northern Ohio because they have more options in their digital comic library than my local one does. So
Interesting.
yeah, my cousin was like, "Oh, get one through Cuyahoga Falls," and I was like, "Why?" He's like, "Because you get way more borrows, and the library size of their online collection like triples." I was like, oh, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to." So shout out to Cuyahoga Falls. I don't even know where that is in Ohio, but it's way north, and they have a great library for comics. So yay, hoopla! Man, we're going all over the place. How do I bring this back? Okay, Apollo City Comics. See, we're right back on track.
We're
How
here.
did you begin getting connected with Apollo City or with lesser known comics? Or like, how did all that relationship start?
It was really again through like social media. It was, I believe, Instagram for meeting Brandon, just randomly through. I'm sure we were linked up through somebody. Somebody commented on somebody. I don't honestly remember how exactly it started, but Yeah, something like we started talking on Instagram, and he had under Apollo City Comics had at the very beginning, I guess, had a thing where he was talking, doing lives with people, and I reached out to him. I guess I had seen a live that he'd done with somebody, and I asked him if he'd be interested in doing one for my upcoming Kickstarter, I believe it was, or no, maybe it was for Shadows. Okay, it was for Shadows because he I kickstarted Hyperforce with Apollo. Duh. So
Okay.
anyway, so it's interesting because I've gone back more recently and watched that interview, and it's funny because all the things we're talking about in that interview kind of came like he was mentioning, I was disgruntled because I was like kind of newer in the game at that point, so I was like disgruntled, like reaching out to these labels, and like I'm like, when they're answering back, they're saying no. And this is when I was getting feedback about series versus trade kind of thing.
Okay.
So single issue kind of thing. So yeah, everything from that, it just we both kind of circled back, and I don't know, it happened. I was the first. Hyperforce issue 1 was the first uh one creator title that wasn't an anthology, so I'm their first title that's a non-anthology on Apollo. I'm like,
Nice.
I made
That's
it.
awesome. It's good. It's good to be the first something like that.
Yeah, for something.
Dear diary, when I get older, I want to be the first
Gonna be
single
number one
creator.
at something. Yeah. Keep
I
it.
love
Yeah.
I love to like there's a bakery that's by my mom's house that's like voted best strawberry shortcake. And I'm always like, who?
By
Who
who? Yeah, who
voted
voted
you?
that?
So then I was like, you
What's
know
the
what?
poll?
Yeah, like what's our demographic?
Right.
What's our over under here? Like you got to
Right.
give me more than. But then it made me think like, well, if anybody can do that, I need to come up with a hyper specific thing that I can say I'm the best at. And
Yeah.
so like when I was doing my old radio show, it was like I was your favorite like Midwest based punk rock show that's only online on Spotify through like and it had like 18 different titles before I got to
Can't
like
be
the
proven wrong.
actual show name. And it was like, I dare anybody else to challenge this. I
Right.
just dare you.
Yeah. Try even saying the sentence. Right.
Yeah, it was different I ran that bit for like 5 shows in a row, but I forgot what I said every single time.
That's funny.
So it was always slightly different. But yes, just just stay silly is what I'm really like all about is just
Don't take yourself too seriously. Yeah.
you can't, man. You
Yeah.
really can't. There was who used to say that? That's from a movie or something, right? Like you can't take stuff too seriously because no one gets out alive. Or is that just something that my mom used to say? I
That
feel
does sound familiar, but I cannot place it.
okay, great.
That
We'll
does sound
just
like a familiar line.
it's from something someone somewhere said that at
Someone
some
said
point
that one time.
for sure. And
Mhm.
now we're quoting that person or people.
Yeah.
So all right. So that's those are all of my official notes that I wrote down.
Okay.
But you're not done yet.
Oh.
2 more things. One is super simple. I'm going to take a screenshot, which means we're going to pose, and I'm going to use that for the YouTube thumbnail. So let me get my keyboard shortcut here. All right, and then we will.
How's my hair?
Yeah, you got to get your last looks in, man. Make sure it's the
All right.
volume's right, the shine is there. All right, and then. Oh yeah, get that Wham stand emblem in there. Oh, now I can. Okay,
It's gonna be backwards though. Wait.
no, it's coming through. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, 3, 2, 1. Cool. I took several. All right. The other thing, and I gave you this warning, so I'm not catching you off guard, is I love doing this show because I get to talk to indie comic creators with all sorts of different backgrounds and experiences. But knowing that we all have this commonality of indie comics and comic books in general as being just the best freaking medium that there is. With that said, I love hearing from creatives that come on here just about whatever it is that you want people to hear. So it could be a sales pitch for Hyperforce 2, like go back it now because it's linked in the description below. And so all you have to do is tap twice and you're at the campaign page and you have business. You have 10 days to go. It's fully funded already. So you're guaranteed to get whatever level you pledge at, which is super sick. and there's a bunch of really cool add-ons. See, I'm doing all the sales pitch for you, which
Thanks.
is like, I should be doing that stuff so that you don't have to think about it and you can just be creative. But it could be like about Hyperforce. It could be about why being a singer-songwriter is being better than being a pop punk star, whatever. The content doesn't matter so much as I just want to have a space that you can share anything that you want people to hear directly from you. So Adam Matthew Smith, the floor is yours.
No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. It's my moment. No, so I could say a lot of stuff about being a musician and the difference between all of that, but I think the main message I just want to spread to people is, if you're watching this and you want to start creating something and you're like stuck in a moment, like I just always want to say, like, just take the first step, because like a blank page doesn't get anywhere, but you can circle back to something you've written. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just take the first step in whatever you're doing, paint the first stroke, whatever it is, but do that thing. That's the only way you'll progress. Thinking about it's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah. The guy that I replaced at my last job, as he was training me, used to say things might feel like an elephant, but the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. And like, it sounds so bizarre, but I use that all the time. Like, that's my life advice now, is just like one bite at a time. Write the first sentence, write the title, write the whatever, just start writing. And it's like, that's exactly, that's it. And like, other people get it. Like, that's how we got in. Oh, I want to make the thing. Okay, then make the thing. Like, you got it, AJ. Like, go for it. Do the thing. And also, just never forget that hashtag Scar was right. I love that came out of this episode as well. I'm going to leave that up for the
Scar was right.
Man, what an iconic Scar, right?
It's mine.
So good.
Yeah.
Do you have a Scar figure? I was gonna like drop my jaw on the floor if you're like, yeah, here's Scar here.
Oh, here's Scar right now. Come on, Scar. Have me over here with you. We're just hanging out, having beers before.
Perfect. No, that's so good. That's so good. Dude, thanks so much for hanging out with me. This was a really fun time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hang out after I end this. I got logistics for you. But for everybody else that has been watching, sounding off in the comments, participating, that makes it more fun for us, makes it more interactive. So, tell all your friends to do the same thing and subscribe while they're here and share it, whatever. Because like, the indie creators that I have on the show deserve to be seen and to be heard and to be able to make their stories. That's why I'm doing this. It's not for me. Like, legitimately, there is no subtext here. It's not for me. It's for the creators, because they're making badass stuff and we need more badass stuff. So thank you if you're creating, and especially thank you, Adam Matthew Smith, for creating everything that you are, because I love reading Hyperforce. I'm stoked that the second issue is already funded, and I'm stoked to see what else you've got planned for that series. For everybody else, though, this is the end. And what's a good podcast without a good tagline? This one's mine. Go do what's good for you, punks, and read indie comics, because they're the best and they're good for you. We are out of here.
Scar was right.
And then